From the Arizona Daily Star and Tucson.com, this is the Wildcast.
Thanks for listening to the Wildcast podcast. I'm your host, Justin Spears, here with Michael Lev. Going to be previewing Arizona versus Colorado in Boulder. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, just wanted to make sure you guys are aware that we are on Apple, Spotify, or other podcasting platforms. I've noticed we've gotten a few comments recently. Keep those coming. We appreciate that. Those comments are valued. We always appreciate the feedback.
Are we gonna read them on the air?
It also boosts up our ratings as well, or like our popularity. But yeah, we should read these on the air sometimes. As a matter of fact, big shout out to one who was like, "You guys are great. Make sure you get your guys' mic levels are a little bit better." So I've been tweaking with the mic levels, and we've got it to a standard in which is very high quality. So appreciate the honest feedback there on that one comment. So
Mikey Levels, that's what they used to call me.
Mikey Levels?
Yeah, no, they did not.
You ain't redlining, you ain't headlining.
Not a thing.
All right, Lev. So we got a big one on Saturday. Also, we're on the Wildcaster mobile app too. So download that for free off the App Store and Google Play. Not all of the content is free. If you want every piece of content, you have to be a Tucson.com subscriber. And it's very cheap to subscribe to Tucson.com nowadays.
All kinds of great deals. Mm-hmm. I know some people have had technical difficulties getting signed up or whatever. If that happens, seriously, email me.
Yeah.
Email Justin. We will forward those emails to the proper authorities. Someone will call you and help you get signed up if you're having trouble with your credit card.
On Saturday, Lev, Arizona takes on Colorado. And you know what's crazy is I never thought that we'd be sitting here saying that this is a trap game for Arizona. Because Arizona has won 3 straight games over 3 ranked opponents, which has never happened in program history prior to this season. So they set history there. They're also bowl eligible for the first time in 6 years. And they're in the AP top 25 for the first time in 6 years. And hey, how about this? The college football playoff rankings coming in
number 21.
Number 21. So we're in like really, I won't say unprecedented territory, but just an area in which Arizona football hasn't been in quite a long time. And then you look at the other side, Lev. Colorado had a great start to the season under their first-year head coach Deion Sanders, but things have been rough for the Buffaloes. But this game's in Boulder. It's mile high, that elevation. It's a little tough to play there, but it's an afternoon game. It's going to be a beautiful setting in Boulder. I'm excited for the atmosphere, but man, I just look at this game and I'm like, ew.
It's concerning.
Arizona, are they going to struggle, or are they going to come out and beat the snot out of Colorado and really show the rest of the country that, hey, we're here, we're not messing around?
Yeah, all the things that you listed there at the beginning are the reasons that I think this is a potential trap game, right? It's like you feel like you've accomplished everything that you set out to accomplish already, right? You made the top 25. You qualified for a bowl. It's like, what now?
Yeah.
Is there going to be a letdown? Is this going to be the game where Arizona's just kind of sloppy, a little messy, maybe some turnovers, missed penalties, gave up a special teams touchdown, things of this nature? This is what worries me heading into this game. I don't think they're going to just roll over the Buffaloes, even though most teams have. And when you look at their statistical profile, oof. I mean, it's pretty alarming. I mean, they're 129th nationally in rushing offense. They're 129th nationally in sacks allowed. In other words, like they've allowed almost the most sacks of anybody out there. Total defense, 129th in the nation. Now, to give you some idea of how bad Colorado was and last year, like they're still a lot better.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that they're near the bottom in some of these significant categories. That was a dreadful Colorado team last year. I think their point differential was minus 349. Mm-hmm. And then I compared that to Arizona's the previous year when they were also 111, and it was only 171.
Yeah.
So more than double. More than three, do the math. 349 divided by 12. I mean, that's almost almost 30 points a game. So they're coming from the bottom.
Yeah.
And Deion Sanders went about this rebuilding project in a wholly different way than what Jedd Fisch did, than maybe almost anyone has ever done, by like, I'm just going to get rid of all these guys and bring in a bunch of new guys. 51 guys in the transfer portal came through.
And he told them as soon as he was hired, he went into the team meeting room and said, if you guys want to enter that transfer portal, go on ahead, because I'm bringing my luggage with me, and it's Louis. And he's talking about, I got this Louis Vuitton luggage. I have all these players that are coming in the transfer portal that are going to flock here because of me. And, I mean, how many players? We're talking about over 70 players leaving the program?
The overall, it's somewhere around 70 of the 85 are newcomers, something in that range, which has never been done before. So, I mean, look, I think that Shedeur Sanders is great, and Travis Hunter is great, and some of the other perimeter players have been outstanding. The problem for them is in the trenches.
Yeah.
The offensive line has been dreadful. They can't run the ball, and they can't pass protect. And as you well know, if you can't do those things, like, it's really hard to function on offense. And defense, they've been getting run over as well. So, I don't know if it was possible for him to pull this off in 1 year. And they've already, far exceeded expectations to a degree. If they had the same record they have now, but they started 1-2 and had won 3 of their last 6, you'd probably feel differently about it. They just started so hot, and they've fallen off, and it's proven to be, difficult to cover up those flaws.
Yeah.
So my question is, is this a sustainable formula, the way that he's going about building this team? Like, he talked about, we need to get new linemen. Okay, where are these linemen coming from? You are not going to go get 3 or 4 starting linemen, offensive linemen in the transfer portal. You know why?
Because they're going to Alabama.
Every team in the country wants the best offensive lineman when they go in the portal.
Yeah.
So maybe you get 1.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 at the most.
Yeah.
You're not going to rebuild your whole line on the fly like that. They think they have 1 lineman in their recruiting class right now. So, and then you contrast that to the way that Jedd Fisch has gone about rebuilding Arizona. Mostly with high school players, supplementing that with portal players. And what's the thing we've been talking about for weeks? Class of 2022.
Yep. Right?
Top 25 class in the country. They absolutely, positively nailed that class. And that is the foundation and the nucleus of this team. And a lot of the best players are sophomores who are only going to get better.
Yeah.
As they head into their junior and senior years.
And that's what's crazy is a lot of these guys, they're going to be able to come back next season. And we could be talking about Arizona maybe even being better than they are this year.
I mean, look. If they're able to keep most of their coaches, including their head coach, and keep most of these players, we're talking about Tetaroa McMillan, Noah Fafita, Jonas Savanea, some of the young players on defense. If they're all back, this is a preseason top 25 team.
Yeah. And one of the best teams in the Big 12.
Oh, yeah.
Going into the upcoming year.
Yeah.
Behind maybe Oklahoma State, Utah.
I think Utah's up there.
Colorado will be in the mix as well.
Colorado, if they can, bring in some big bodies, I think they'll be up there. No question.
All the newcomers are stealing everyone's shine.
No question about it. I mean, look, Kansas State, I think, is kind of like Utah-esque. They're just they have a system. They're very physical. They're just kind of a constant. So I think they're up there. Kansas, that's been an amazing turnaround, but you don't know if someone's going to come and poach Lance Leipold. But, those are some of the contenders. Texas Tech's been disappointing this year. TCU's been disappointing this year. Baylor's had a down year. Most of the teams that moved up from the group of 5 have struggled. So I don't know, man. I think there's a great opportunity next season if you can keep this team intact and add a few pieces to it to win the Big 12 in year 1.
Oh, by the way, going back to, we're talking about Colorado and just the hype that they had. What do you think about just Deion at CU and the trajectory that they're on overall? And you said, is it sustainable? Do you think that this could be sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the theme of my column earlier this week, was sustainability. And, I said in there that I thought that he has been a net positive, right? That whatever issues you have with him, I think the positives outweigh the negatives. Like, he's brought a lot of attention to the not only the program, but the sport. Like, the ratings for some of those Colorado games were unbelievably good.
Well, wasn't Colorado State, they had higher numbers than all the World Series.
It was nuts.
Every single game.
It was nuts. So that's been great for sure. And the program is better, no question. They've sold out, I think, every home game, and they've drawn great on the road as well. So that's also a big positive. But then, he's said and done some things that kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah.
Like the comment about getting new offensive linemen, or the way that he brought Sean Lewis over from Kent State to be the offensive coordinator. Sean Lewis was a head coach at Kent State. So, I mean, he's probably making more money, but it's also kind of a demotion in terms of your career ladder. And then he demoted him mid-season, and he's like, I don't want to use that term. Like, we're not being negative around here. I don't want to talk about it, but I don't know. It sort of suggests that there's a little bit of I don't know if chaos is maybe too strong of a word, but when I look at Jedd Fisch, it's like he's been very focused. Like, he's had a plan from day one, and he's had a lot of continuity, especially in the offensive coaching staff. The roughest patch was that first year, and a lot of it had to do with, just could never find the right quarterback. A lot of injuries at that position. But he was sort of like, he never put any kind of expectations on the program in terms of, we're going to win this number of games in year one and year two, etc. It was just like, we're going to be a tough team.
Yep.
We're going to be a tough out, and we're going to build. And they've been building and building, and they're a little bit ahead of schedule, I think. I think most of us probably thought next year is more likely to be the breakthrough, but that's my question about Colorado. Like, can you go about building a program this way? And I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm really not sure.
I will say it was the Colorado hype at the start of the season was really something to behold, because they kind of became America's team for a little bit, Lev. I don't know if you remember this, but there was a Safeway here in town at, I think it was Prince and Campbell at their Starbucks. They had a bin full of Colorado Hydro Flasks or Colorado Starbucks cups that they were selling. Why are they selling Colorado Buffalo cups at a Starbucks in Tucson, Arizona? Well, I think maybe Starbucks was like, hey, we got to capitalize on this Deion hype because everyone's talking about him and everyone loves Colorado. They had rappers and entertainers and celebrities. Heck, they had Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson fly out for one game, and then they had Big Noon Kickoff there several weeks and College Game Day. Like, they generated so much buzz, and then it seems like it's all kind of gone by the wayside, I would say, over the last month or so, but that's just because they've been losing games. But it was very interesting to see the buzz that Colorado generated at the start of the season. I never seen anything like it, honestly.
Yeah, and then you look at like all these celebrities, whether from the world of sports or even entertainment, like kind of hopping on the bandwagon, showing up at Colorado games. Like, I think his most remarkable achievement is that he turned them from completely irrelevant,
the worst Power 5 team in football,
into relevant.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody talked or cared about Colorado football.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about it. So, that's something.
Also, 2 Wildcats formerly played for Colorado on the offensive side, Montana Lamonius Craig, who's had, I would say, a relatively quiet year, Lev. I thought
touchdown last week, but hasn't had a huge role as a pass catcher.
2 touchdowns this season, and I thought he would be, without a doubt, Arizona's number 3 pass catching option. But it's been that number 3 option has been kind of by committee. It's like between MLC, The running backs, also tight end Tanner McLaughlin. He made a couple of critical catches in that game against UCLA. So that number 3 option, I guess it just kind of depends on the game, depends on the matchup and who they're getting involved in. But yeah, I thought Montana might have had a bigger role, but he blew up in Colorado spring game, had a lot of yak and was running all over the place, and was kind of one of the more surprising departures for Colorado. I thought he could be a starter for the Buffaloes this year, but he goes into the portal, comes to Arizona, and then Taylor Upshaw, he's an interesting case because he was at Michigan and was actually producing for the Wolverines, then goes in the portal, goes to Colorado. Lev, was he at Colorado prior to Deion joining, or was he a guy who joined after Deion was hired? And then
Taylor Upshaw transferred in January. So
he was a Deion guy.
Yeah.
And then didn't like it after a couple months. And
I heard that
talked about it.
Yeah, he hasn't really gotten into it that much. Basically just said he didn't think it was a good fit for him. And I've heard that this was not a case of they saw him and didn't think he was good enough. It was just that he didn't really like the vibe over there and just felt like it just wasn't the right fit for him. And because he was a graduate already, he could go back into the portal. So he was only there for about 5 months, and he's been great. He got 7.5 sacks, team leader for Arizona.
Like top 5 in the Pac-12.
Yeah. So I mean that's a pretty big total. I haven't looked it up, but I bet you that's the most that any Arizona player has had in a long time. Because they have just not racked up the sacks in any sort of regular way in many, many years, maybe since 2017 or so. So yeah, that's been a great addition. See, that's when you look at how Arizona went about building up that defense. Just a perfect blend of young guys and older guys. They're like, we have all these promising young players all over the place, but we need some bulk. We need some strong, sturdy veterans. So they went out and got Upshaw and Tyler Manoa and Bill Norton and others to fortify the front so that they could bring the younger guys along slowly. Not overtax them.
All the young, talented players are all kind of skill players, and then they went out and got the defensive outside of Tai Uiagalelei and Russell Deuce Davis and Isaiah Ward. Those guys have been awesome. But
and Jacob Kungaika.
Oh my goodness. This goes on and on, man.
You really cannot, we should call this up. I mean, is there anyone in the 2022 class who hasn't contributed?
Honestly, I really can't think off the top of my head. I know they're getting contributions from like 18 to 19 players. Like even Kevin Green is stepping up for Arizona on offense.
Let's go through. Okay. Tedro McMillan, of course. Rayshawn Luke, when he plays,
he flashes.
Kean Burnett has not played that much, but I still think he has a bright future here. Ephesians Prysock. Okay, here's one. Sterling Lane has not been able to get on the field this year. Kevin Green, when he plays, looks really good. Jonah Coleman, star. Jonas Savanea, star. Noah Fafita, star. A.J. Jones hasn't played that much. Isaiah Ward, starter. Tacario Davis, starter, really good. Tyler Powell, tight end, hasn't played that much.
No.
I mean, he's just got good guys ahead of him. They like him, though. Russell Davis had the best game of his career last week. Mm-hmm. Grayson Stovall, offensive lineman, he's a reserve at the moment, but I think he's pretty firmly ensconced in the second team. Tyler Martin transferred to UMass. Jacob Manu, star. Javian Celestine, he's a backup. Special teams, promising. Wendell Moe, starter, really good. Jacob Reese, health problems.
Yeah.
So he might have been a guy, we're not really sure what his future holds. Tai Ungalale, stud. Isaiah Johnson, the defensive lineman, he's been kind of banged up.
Yeah.
And then Jermaine Wiggins also transferred. But, dude, that is such a high hit rate.
Yeah.
I mean, well over 50%. If you can hit on 50% of your any given recruiting class, you're doing really well. And they're way over that.
They're like in the 70s, right?
Yeah. And it's not like just really good players.
Yeah.
So great job by Jed Fish and his staff to get those guys to come here when the team was struggling, and then also just their ability to identify talent.
Mm-hmm.
Top notch.
It is. All right, shall we go to Pac-12
we have
picks
to?
for the week? Okay.
Do we have to?
We'll preview Arizona Colorado football and the game on Saturday in Boulder. But, yeah, let's get to another week of Pac-12 picks.
Yes.
I'm exhausted. I am worn down. I had such a promising start, and then it just all went down the toilet. So.
You're not that bad, dude. Seriously. I mean, your bad week, you went 3-3 this past week against the spread. 2-4 the previous week. But what's happened is Brett Farah, who's not here today, he is traveling today, so he couldn't join us. But he went 5-1 against the spread and has taken the lead in the season race. He's 32-26-1. I was 2-4 last week, so I have fallen into third place at 29-1. You are 31-27-1.
Nice.
Straight up, I'm 49-10. Brett 47-12. Justin 44-15.
Yeah, let's get back.
So maybe this is the bounce back week.
Hopefully.
This is a tricky week. We will start with Utah at Washington. Utah is ranked 18th. Washington is number 5. This game is on Fox. It is at 1:30 p.m. now that we're on the mountain time again here in Arizona. And Utah is getting 9.5 points at Washington. Utah absolutely boot stomped ASU last week. One of the most lopsided games that I can ever remember. Thankfully, that was my pick to click in my column. I'm 7-2 on my picks to click, Justin. That's pretty good.
I like it.
Brett has given us his picks. He is taking Washington to win and cover. I am going to take Washington to win the game, but I think Utah is going to be competitive and feisty, ugly the game up a little bit, keep it close. Washington really hasn't played that great since the Oregon game. You know, they've looked kind of vulnerable, so I'm going to take those 9.5 points and say that Utah, loses by a touchdown or so.
I'm going to go with Utah to pull off the upset and beat the Huskies on the road. And once again, the Pac-12s, they cannibalize itself. They eat it. They beat up on the opponents that should be the flagship programs in the CFP. I'm going with Utah to pull off the win. And the only reason why I'm doing this, Lev, is because I look at Washington the last few weeks ever since that big win over Oregon, and I just haven't been impressed. 15-7 against ASU. And, oh, by the way, Utah absolutely smacked ASU last week. So they beat ASU 15-7. At Stanford, 42-33. Against Stanford?
And it was even closer than that, honestly.
Come on, what are we doing here? And then 52-42 against USC. Yeah, you scored 52 points, but that's against USC's awful defense. They fired Alex Grinch. You still gave up 42 to the Trojans as well. I know they have Caleb Williams. They have a great offense, but still, I just really haven't been impressed with Washington lately or the last 3 weeks. And so I'm going with Utah to pull off to win, pull off the upset, and the Pac-12 will now have Oregon in the driver's seat in the CFP rankings.
I like it. I like it.
Got to get gutsy when you're behind.
Especially when you're behind. Yes, that's a great gambling strategy too. Not. Anyway. All right. So Washington State at Cal has made its way onto ESPN2. Somehow, that game's at 2:00. Washington State is reeling right now. They're 4-5. Cal is 3-6. This is basically a pick'em. Cal is favored by 1 point in Berkeley. Brett is taking Washington State to win and cover. It's obviously not one of those games where you're going to take one side and then the other. So I don't know, man. Washington State seems like they are just broken. They lost at home last week to Stanford 10-7.
Mm-hmm.
What is going on here?
Yeah.
They started 4-0 and they've lost 5 straight. So is this the week? I thought last week was the week they get right.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the week they get right. I don't know, but I'm going with the Golden Bears at home in this one. I still have faith in Justin Wilcox. I think if he was in a better situation, that you'd see how good of a coach he really is. And he's just in a tough situation right now. I know they didn't play very well at all at Oregon last week, but God, I just have no faith in Washington State. So I'm taking Cal.
I'm going with Washington State. This is the get-right game for them.
Right.
They're sputtering right now. However, I think they figure out a way to muster up the energy to bounce back and win against Cal, setting up the last 2 games. They got a home game against Colorado, and then they have the Apple Cup in Seattle. And I think they would rather maybe get or secure their bowl bid prior to that Apple Cup game, because I think Washington is just going to absolutely boat race these guys. And I want to see Jake Dicker in the last season of the Pac-12. It'd be awesome to see both Washington State and Oregon State get to a bowl game. So I'm hoping Washington State is able to get this win over Cal, so they move one step closer to bowl eligibility.
All right. Stanford at Oregon State. Oregon State is ranked 12th in the latest CFP rankings. This game is on Pac-12 networks. It kicks off at 3:30 p.m. and Stanford is getting 3 touchdowns on the road at Oregon State, spread of 21 points. Brett took Oregon State to win and cover. I am also going to take Oregon State to win and cover. I just think they are a better team at home, period. Yep. Full stop.
Yep.
Stanford having to travel up there 2 weeks in a row to the Northwest, that's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And they grinded one out last week, but I just think Oregon State is superior, and I'm going to take the superior team in this one, even though it's a lot of points.
Damian Martinez continues to show that he is one of the top running backs in the Pac-12, if not the top running back in the Pac-12. He is so good, and he showed it last week against Colorado, had 21 carries for 115 yards. I really like Oregon State's rushing attack, so in this game, I want to see Oregon State come out, establish the run, just impose their will on Stanford. They are not as good as maybe some would think. I know they had that crazy come-from-behind win against Colorado, but Stanford's not a good football team, so I would expect Oregon State to win and cover.
All right, we have consensus on that, which sometimes is a good thing, sometimes it's not a good thing. As far as our picks go. All right, we have a couple more here before we get to Arizona and Colorado. Full slate of games in the Pac. We've got Arizona State at UCLA. This one's also on Pac-12 networks. Kickoff at 7 o'clock Arizona time. And ASU is getting 18 points in this game. You are shaking your head over there. And ASU is absolutely, positively abysmal against UCLA. We don't know what their quarterback situation is. So that's highly questionable. We also don't know UCLA's quarterback situation because Garbers got hurt last week. I think they have a better, healthier backups. So Brett took UCLA to win and cover. I'll go to you on this one first, Justin.
UCLA to win and cover.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 88 yards of total offense against Utah last week. ASU, we don't know their whole quarterback situation. If Trenton Bourguet is available, then I always like ASU in a fighter's chance. But when he's not playing quarterback, this team just has no rhythm on offense. So I think that if Trent Bourguet plays, ASU will have a chance, but I don't think it's likely he plays. So, and UCLA, they're fresh off a loss against Arizona. You know, Chip Kelly and those guys, they're looking to get their season back on track and also get back into the AP Top 25. You know, with UCLA and USC losing this past week, both the LA schools got removed from the rankings. I think that this is a chance for UCLA to get right, and then I think they're going to beat ASU handily.
Yeah, there's just so much uncertainty around.
But even if Dante Moore, like, they should be just fine.
No.
You know?
I'm saying around ASU.
Oh, ASU, okay.
You know, and they're not fine. They don't have as many options. You know, I mean, they went to a 4th string quarterback last week and had, you know, Cameron Scatabo taking Wildcat snaps. You know, so I was all set and ready to take ASU to cover, but man, that feels like a really tough pull. I'm going to switch, and I'm going to go with you guys, and I'm going to take UCLA. Even if it goes wrong, you just feel a little better about it, you know? Mm-hmm. I don't want to be in that kind of like the Cal-Oregon game last week where I just felt like this is the wrong. Even Cal was kind of close in the second quarter. Like, this is the wrong side. Mm-hmm. Like, it just felt like Oregon could score whenever they wanted. And hey, man, that game was kind of closer than the score indicated last week. I mean, UCLA was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough to move the ball.
Yeah.
At times.
And they still shined. Their defense, I mean, their front
They made
seven
it to the
still
red
had
zone.
11 TFLs.
They made it to the red zone 5 times, and they only scored 1 touchdown. That's pretty unusual. So they were moving the ball okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we have one more here. This is kind of the marquee game of the day. It's USC at Oregon. USC is no longer ranked. Oregon is number 6 in the CFP rankings. This game is in Eugene. It is on Fox. It is an 8:30 kickoff here in Arizona. And Oregon is giving 15 points to the Trojans. USC fired Alex Grinch this week, so they have a new defensive coordinator. How much of a difference will that make? We have seen this type of thing many times over the years, Justin. And it kind of sometimes it goes one way, sometimes it goes the other. Sometimes the change is made and instantaneously, like something is better here. You know, like the Raiders fired Josh McDaniels, and all of a sudden, like Josh Jacobs is good again, and they're scoring more points in the first half than they scored, you know, in the entire games under McDaniels. But then, like when Arizona made their defensive coordinator change in 2019, that first game was a disaster. Yep. Like they were just terrible. They gave up over 50 points to Oregon State. So Brett took Oregon to win and USC to cover with the 15. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to take the 15 points. Just feel like Trojans are still trying. Caleb Williams shown a lot of heart. I thought that crying episode after the game was really endearing. Yeah. Like it just showed how much he cares. Yeah. And people have questioned whether he would continue to play or whatever this year. And I'm like, this he's playing. Yeah. Like he really wants to win, and it really means a lot to him. He's super talented. Oregon, God, they've just been steamrolling people. Maybe they're due for kind of a so-so game. So I'm going to take Oregon, and I'm going to take the 15 points.
Sean Nua and Brian Odom are the interim defensive coordinators, co-DCs for USC right now, taking over for Alex Grinch. But I think this USC offense will keep them in the games. I mean, they've kept them in games all season long. When you look at USC's schedule, they're getting into shootouts with teams. A lot of high-scoring games. If it's a shootout, USC always has a chance. I think this game will be a shootout, but it's at Autzen Stadium. It's very tough to win on the road there, and so I'm going to go with Oregon to win, but USC to cover. Good teams win, great teams cover.
Yeah, we're all taking USC, which just has not been a good bet. You know who has been a good bet? Arizona Wildcats. Arizona Wildcats have been an amazingly good bet.
8-1?
8-1 against the spread. Yeah, how about that? So I'm going to take Colorado this week. Like I said, I think like we talked about at the top, this game is at noon, by the way. It's on Pac-12 networks. 10.5 points is the spread. I'm going to take the points. I think this is just a situation, nothing more. It's a situation where Arizona is going to be a little vulnerable, maybe a little sloppy. And hey, if you walk out of there with a 10-point win, that's perfectly fine. Yeah. No one will complain about that. And that's all you'd have to do to be on the right side on both. So I'm going to take Arizona to win, Colorado to cover. Brett took the U of A to win and cover. What say you, Justin?
I'm going with Arizona to win by a couple of touchdowns. I truly think that in the battle of the trenches, this game favors the Arizona Wildcats on both sides of the ball. I think Arizona has a better offensive line than Colorado has a defensive line, and I also think, and vice versa. And when it comes to the trench battle, if Arizona dominates, it doesn't really matter what the skill players are going to do. Arizona is going to kind of impose their will and really play physical, and that stuff travels on the road, even in what should be a trap game for Arizona. What I am worried about is for a guy like Taylor Upshaw, who leads the team in sacks. He's also been known to get some unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. And we've seen, or when he first committed to Arizona, apparently he tweeted the Colorado schedule or the Colorado date as like an important day for him. Like he's got this game circled on his calendar, but we've seen him have some chippy moments and get some penalties that have extended drives for other teams. You don't want to give Colorado any favors here. Make this as challenging of a game as possible for Dion, and I think Arizona will, and I'm going to go with the Wildcats to win and cover.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they play a clean game, they'll win easily.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm just not sure they will. Because as you mentioned, they are better in the trenches on both sides of the ball.
Like, it's not even close.
Indisputably.
Yeah.
The case. I think they can get a pass rush without blitzing. I think they'll be able to run the ball. I just, they've been playing at such a high level for so many weeks in a row that I just wonder psychologically if they might backslide just a little bit. Just a little bit to make it interesting and maybe not beat the spread. But, you guys might end up being right. They might romp here. And, hey, you know what? There's a path for Arizona to win out this season. There really is.
Yeah.
Like, they can win this game. Utah coming in they're not operating on all cylinders. And ASU, as we mentioned, banged up, struggling. I mean, there is a path to 9-3, which is crazy to think about.
And when you think about the picks today, remember at the start of the show or at the start of our picks, I said Utah is going to pull off the upset against Washington. Arizona takes care of Colorado. Guess who's playing next week? Utah and Arizona. Could there be a possibility, Lev, where College Game Day comes to Tucson? And the center of the college football world is in Tucson.
I think it's a long shot.
You think?
I do, yeah. I think Georgia is at Tennessee, and I know they're kind of SEC centric, and they have a future big time partnership with the SEC. But to me, that's a more logical destination for them. I mean, Tennessee, I think should win. They have a tough game this week. They're at Missouri, so that could change things. Missouri's really good, and those teams are ranked right next to each other at 13 and 14. But that would be my first guess. And then you also have Washington at Oregon State next week, which is a potential matchup between two top 12 teams. So we think Oregon State's going to roll this week. Washington, you think they're going to lose, but they're supposed to win. So that's another possibility to me that would be ahead of. You could even throw Kansas in there, as a maybe more kind of interesting game matchup than Utah Arizona. So I don't think
interesting.
I don't think so.
Okay,
it's a long shot, but hey, the fact that we're having this conversation indicates that the program has made some major strides.
No doubt
forward.
Arizona versus Colorado, noon kickoff in Boulder. You can find all of our coverage on the Wildcats on Tucson.com and the Wildcaster app. Thanks for listening. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment the Wildcast podcast wherever you get your podcasts.